Mr. Rajesh Rao, Chairman, CCIL, and ex-Deputy Governor, Reserve Bank of India, Mr. Jena, MD, CCIL, the previous Deputy Governors of the Reserve Bank of India and my erstwhile bosses, Mrs. Gopinath and Mr. Gandhi, Executive Directors, Ajay Kumar, and I think Vivek is on his way. All other dignitaries. In fact, I see another ex-boss of mine, Mr. Padmanabhan, sitting there and sizing me up. A lot of old friends as in friends for a long time, not friends who are old, from the market who are there. I can see many of them. All other distinguished guests here, ladies and gentlemen. I will be honest with you, I hadn't prepared a speech, and the reason was, something that is hard-coded into me. I interact with CCIL fairly regularly. I have been interacting with them almost ever since, I think, it was set up from 2001 onwards. It stands to reason that, they keep inviting me for most of the events. And CCIL events, I feel I'm as familiar with CCIL as I'm with the Reserve Bank of India. So I don't really prepare much. I just come and I, speak something. Most of the things that they do are familiar. So I sort of, modulate whatever is for the occasion. So when they invited me this time, I had in my mind, the usual CCIL meeting. I did not expect, I was not visualizing an audience like this and a place like this, which is why I think I was telling my Siddharth from my office, when we took the road, on the way I said, why are we going this way? Should we have got off near Dadar? Then he said, no, this is in Geo Center. So, but then, that's how it is, so I will also improvise. I don't have to say much on what they have done. Most of you know that both MD and Chairman actually highlighted some of them. So what I thought I will do is talk a little bit about my journey with this august institution. I think the first 25 years have shown the service that it has rendered the financial ecosystem in this country. I can't think of any other institution which has played that significant a role. Definitely not as a financial infrastructure agency. So I thought I'll just narrate a few incidents of my association with CCIL. I remember this was initially, I think this was in 2001 or 2. The basic point was that anything that RBI wanted at any point of time in these markets, we used to simply go and say, ask CCIL to do it. And then we can rely on them for the job to be delivered on time with complete efficiency. I remember that, I think this was in the 2001 budget, I could be off by a year, when Government of India announced about 4 fiscal measures that needed to be implemented, buyback of shares and so on. People of that time would remember. One of the 4 fiscal measures announced was that the securities with the banks will be bought back by the central government to reduce the cost of funding debt for the central government. So it was announced in February And initially, there was a lot of discussion with the government on what exactly they have in mind and so on. And we had, at the end of it, about 4 months in which we had to implement this. And what we had to do was do a multi-security auction. And by the very nature of that auction, this had to be a live auction. So very quickly we had to work out what the criteria for the auction would be and so on. And it had to be set up. It had to be set up in a way that everyone, the network works, everyone participates. This was, I think, in 2001. I think this was in 2001, or maybe 2002. I'm sorry, this was 2002 budget, and this auction was in 2003. And in 3 months' time, they delivered what, to me, till now, is the most sophisticated auction that we have held in India. Those of you who have participated in that would remember. This was a multi-security live auction. People could change their bids as other people were bidding. And it went off without a glitch, smoothly. We realized at that point of time as well that this is a professional organization. This is an organization which has not just this professionalism, but the skill and the discipline to deliver, and the values that agree with what typically a regulator or someone like a central bank wants. Similarly, in 2004, they developed the NDS home system, right? Initially, when it was developed, there was a lot of skepticism on whether order matching or anonymous trading works in government securities markets. It hasn't worked anywhere else. Of course, no one tried it anywhere else. But CCIL delivered it at that point in time, and in next to no time, this was the platform that was doing 70–80% of the total volume of transactions, which I understand happens to this day. And there is not a single such platform anywhere else in the world. So the basic point was that there are many firsts to CCIL's name. I mean, some of them have been listed out, but these are things which did not exist anywhere else as well. Come to think of it, central or guaranteed settlement did not really exist in the OTC market until after 2007-8 financial crisis. CCIL started doing it in 2001. I remember, this would have been sometime around 2010, I was on some visit to US, and there was a team from European, I think one of those market regulators at that time, I don't recall exactly who were making a presentation after the G20 recommendations on how guaranteed settlement can be introduced in the treasuries market and in the OTC derivatives market. And the things that they were narrating, the issues that they were highlighting that need to be settled were issues that were highlighted in 2001 and 2 when we were doing the same thing for CCIL. I couldn't hold myself back. In fact, I suggested to them that these questions have been discussed and answered about a decade back. I will give you the connect. Why don't you connect to CCIL in India? That went on. But even to this day, I don't think the level of central counterparty scope exists in any of the developed markets as it does in India. Even in US, not all securities are, all treasuries are done with central counterparty guarantee. That is the level of professionalism that I have seen this organization develop. And that does not happen just because it has a good leader. It started off with obviously, a very powerful, very strong, iconic leader who set it up, Dr. R.H. Patil. But then it has always had very good leaders who were running it, but it's not just the leaders who can explain the efficiency or the professionalism of this organization. The organization is strong at its core. The staff I have dealt with at various points in time are the best in their field. When you talk to them, you realize that. They are subdued, they are quiet, they don't probably advertise as much, but look around India, and I'm sure look around anywhere, it's very difficult to find an organization which is that professional and that efficient. So congratulations on an organization which has which is probably single-handedly responsible for the kind of financial infrastructure we have in India today, in the OTC segment, in the interest rates and forex markets. I have no doubt in my mind this is the best in the world. In fact, nothing else comes close. There is no other market, no other government securities market in the world where you will be able to see prices of every single trade, of every single security, both prices at which trades were done and bid and offer prices on a live basis, on a historical basis. You don't see that. That level of transparency does not exist in many markets, not even in any market actually, not even the most liquid market in the world. We in India tend to, undersell ourselves. That's a feeling we have. We always had this central counterparty thing. We know the level of transparency in our markets are the best in the world. But even now, people get away with saying Indian bond market. It's a very general thing. Bond markets are illiquid, and they talk as if it's an underdeveloped bond market. Our bond market infrastructure is far and away the best that we have. I was part of a BIS group which were looking at bond markets. Everyone in the group was surprised when they started deriving numbers for liquidity indicators. They looked at the bid-ask spread. They looked at the 10-year bid-ask spread in India, Indian government bonds, and they just said, we were never aware that this is the level of liquidity you have in this benchmark. It was better than everyone else, including the US Treasuries. That was the level of liquidity that we have here. But, this is not something, I'm not saying we are required to shout at the top of our voice from rooftops, but we must realize that we have an extremely efficient market and an extremely transparent market, and all of that has become possible because of the efforts of, efforts and the delivery record of CCIL. So it was not much of a surprise that when we had to deal with another intractable issue on which we have been talking ever since I can recall, which is how do we get retail into government securities. So we talked to them, and then we sort of relied on them to deliver to us the retail direct. The numbers and all chairman read out. It's starting, it's going up. At the end of the day, the actual investment in government securities, retail government securities will depend on the risk-return trade-off vis-a-vis every other instrument. But it's important that should anyone want to trade, should anyone want to invest, the system exists which makes it very easy for people to do it. And what we see in government securities, that is a problem that CCIL solved with the retail direct. It is undergoing iterations, and they're trying to improve it, continuously. But it's very easy. It has never been that easy to invest in government securities in India. So these and many other things, if you wanted a trade repository, it was CCIL who could do it. If you wanted, in any particular trading platform, CCIL would do it. If you want legal entity identifier, it would be CCIL who would do it. You want benchmark administration, calculation and all that, you could go to them. So they have been the go-to, not just the go-to organization for the Reserve Bank and in a sense for the OTC financial markets here. But they have also, over these years and in discharging these functions, have built up a very powerful organization which can play a catalyzing role as we go forward in the next 25 years. They have the basic ingredients for that. It needs to be taken forward. They have already started this. One area where I think CCIL can actually play a big role is globalize India in this particular aspect. There are many countries which don't have to reinvent the wheel, which can actually look at this model. This can be exported in terms of the various services, the trading platform, central clearing, trade repository, all kinds of infrastructural work that needs to be done, can be done. So I think over the next 25 years, I'm hoping to see that CCIL, whether it makes a name that everyone knows or not is not really material, that CCIL certainly should have a presence globally and be recognized globally by people who understand these things as an organization to be reckoned with. That is an area. It has already made a beginning. It has started the foreign currency settlement in IFSC. I'm sure it's a small beginning, but as IFSC business picks up, this will also become important. So this is an area that I expect CCIL to make headway over the next 25 years. I also expect CCIL to be the entity that would continuously solve the technology problem. By that, what I mean is that the extremely fast mutating technologies, the fast changing technologies we have, we need an entity that has an understanding of technology to be able to harness those technologies for its diffusion in the financial system in a manner that maintains the integrity of the financial system. As far as I understand, the values that CCIL follows in its functioning, I think it is best placed. I always recognize CCIL not as much as a financial infrastructure institution, but as a technology institution. So on the technology field, I would expect that they would be the ones who would be guiding the absorption of these fast-moving technologies in the financial in the financial markets, and maybe whatever other innovations that are required. While I hope many of these things, one thing I am certain is that this organization, if I have seen, the way I have seen it grow over the last 25 years, will continue to serve the financial system and the country in general like very few institutions do. I wish them all the very best, and I hope that someone will be talking with this level of enthusiasm in another 25 years' time. Thank you.